If you want to hear the outcome of round 4 of the palette collection roulette and have a say in what I use in round 5, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène with another video, and yes, I have a lot of palettes to talk about. A total of 8 different palettes selected by 4 of you, and I had a really good time, and I used these palettes virtually every day, a combination of them, and very often I was using up to 4 or 5 at a time, which I was kind of blown away. It was unexpected, but I ended up being able to select colors, shadows from a variety of sources out of those 8 options and use them in combinations, first off, that I had never used before, and combinations that included 4 different eyeshadow palettes, 3 different contour palettes. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely created looks that there's no way I ever would have created without this combination. So I'm very thankful. This round 4 was a lot of fun, and I created a lot of different looks. So let's go and talk about the various palettes based on the folks who selected them. So I'm just going to go through the list, no particular order, it's not in order in which they were picked, but I will talk about the eye and face palette for each of the 4 people who selected something for me. So I'm just going to go down in no particular order. So the first one is, and now I think I'm going to say her name right, it's either Biljana or Biljana. Biljana or Biljana, just let me know which one, the first or the second, is the closest. Thank you in advance. I really appreciate being able to say someone's name correctly. All right, now for the rest of the video, I'm just going to say Biljana because I'm not sure. Now, Biljana picked 2 palettes. She picked the Smoky, which was number 37, and she picked the La Palette by L'Oreal, which was a lip palette. So let me take out these 2 first. So let's talk about this lip palette first. And the lip palettes are in with the face palettes because I just have a few of them. I think I have 3 of them, no, 4 of them. So it doesn't make sense to have them as a category of their own. It comes with a brush. Useless. I hated it. And if anything, it just keeps falling out of this palette. So I ended up, I don't care if it grosses you out. It's my palette, it's my mouth. I use my finger. I use my finger because that lip brush or any lip brush I find time consuming and I just don't have time for that. So I ended up, well, today I'm wearing one, actually I'm wearing number 4, but I think you'll see that I used most of the lip products in this palette. I just was not drawn. I used this one once and I did not use this one. I just wasn't really drawn to these 2. I did like the chocolatey brown kind of nutmeg color here. I appreciated this cool color. I definitely used the highlight quite a bit. And these 2 cream colors were really nice when I was using deeper shadows and I wanted a very nude light lip to kind of offset the depth of the eye look. And so I really did enjoy this palette more than I thought. And I would have to say that lip palettes are not, unless you're using them as a one-time editorial look or you're helping somebody do their one-time makeup, a lip palette with a lot of options like the Anastasia lip palette can be the bomb. If you are going to be out and about, a big lip palette is really not a great thing, or a palette with a lip that needs retouching a lot can be a bad thing. This is a very neutral lip. So even if it just kind of fades away as you're going about your day, it's not as big of a deal. So I would be more partial to a lip color or lip palette like this than I would to a lip color that has a ton of different colors where it may not fade gracefully as would a nude lip like this. Do I like this one? Yes, and I got it for a song. I think I got it for $9 Canadian, which it's about a $20 to $24 palette. And if it were the full price, if you don't want to own a lot of lipsticks in your collection, a palette like this might be a good idea. But I would say that in my experience in my own collection, I do tend to prefer bullet lipsticks or lip glosses with the wand to apply as opposed to a lip palette like this. If I want to have more variety, I would tend to put a liquid lip on that I know is going to stay all day and not worry about my lipstick when I'm out and about. If it were for a cream color, I'm more likely to bring a bullet with me that I can reapply more easily than this palette. If you have a problem using a finger, you may find that just the cumbersomeness of using a brush would possibly keep you even from using it. It just really depends on your style, and depending on what I've given you as far as pros and cons, you may decide that a lip palette is or isn't for you. But those are my thoughts on this one. And for the other palettes that were chosen, this was actually a good color for the whole duration of the couple of weeks that I made looks with all these 8 palettes. The other palette that Biljana chose was the Naked Smoky. I'm just making sure that I'm right. Yes, this is what she chose. I actually like the brush that comes with the Naked Smoky, and I did use it, so just letting you know. Now for the Naked Smoky, I did 2 looks. I did one look with this one, which is called Smolder, and I did a very nice purple look with it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I ended up using this one, and I definitely used these 2. And I can't remember if I used Slanted in the look or not, but I'll have the look right here, assuming that I took a picture. I'm pretty sure I did. And I did use 13 and High on the brow bone for the looks I was doing with this palette. Now the other look I did was with Whiskey and Radar and High and Dirty Sweet. So Whiskey over here, so I did a brown look, and then I used these 3 at the end as well. And I did use 13 on the brow bone as well, but those are the colors that I used there. So I did a warm, natural looking look, and I did a purple smoky look with a pinky purple inner lid that I thought ended up looking pretty good. So that's what I did with the smoky. I really wanted to show a deep smoky look, and I wanted to show a more brownish beige look because this palette can really deliver quite a bit both ways. Now speaking of the inner lid and what I did there, I want to talk about the next set of palettes. Now this is the Aurora palette, and this one was selected by Steph. And Steph gave me 2 very colorful options in the numbers, and this one was number 11. So Steph chose 11 and 49. So this 11 palette is the Aurora. If you haven't seen it yet, it is a highlighter palette from ABH or Anastasia. And I did not use all the colors. I focused on certain colors. I focused on Spectra, Orion, Helia, and Luna. And Luna I used specifically to give more punch to the brow bone. I used that at least 3, if not 4 times. Luna was really nice as an for emphasizing the brow bone. But I have to say that the green, the blue, and the purple are really the highlighters, pardon me, that I prefer in this palette. I'm not so much on the orange and the goldy peach. But I used Spectra for sure twice. I used Orion at least once. I used this one once, and this one 3 or 4 times, as I mentioned. And it's a very nice set of highlighters. And I use them on the cheek, but I also mostly use these just as I do the Cliona Cosmetics highlighters for inner corner punch. It really makes the inner corner come alive and takes, at least I consider, it takes my looks to the next level. So I really enjoyed using this palette quite a bit. Now I did say, right, that Steph chose a lot of colorful looks for me. Steph also chose this palette, this top one. So those, 12 shadows, and then this highlighter right here. And you may recognize this. This is the Cheers to the Beauty palette from Colored Raine. And I did use quite a few colors in here. I used Iconic, which is just a beautiful, beautiful metallic shimmer. I used Razor Glass right here. I also used this one, and I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's Diamond Jubilee. So I also used Diamond Jubilee. So inner lid, definitely those two. And I also did a really nice look with this one. I ended up using 3 palettes. This is Black Butterfly. I ended up using this one, and I ended up using Spectra as well, which was from the Aurora by ABH. So I ended up going from the deepest color, deep center, and then inner lid, and it looked so, so, so good. It was one of my earliest looks and one of my favorite looks in this Roulette number 4. So really happy to have used Cheers to the Beauty. It is my favorite palette from Colored Raine. I do also have the Queen of Hearts and the Beauty Rust, but Cheers to the Beauty is my favorite because the colors are just, they're beautiful. So a total of 3 looks, including the Cheers to the Beauty, and I think that that's pretty good. And I also used Diamond Jubilee as an inner corner pop in another look as well. So really, really happy to have been using that palette. Let's stay with ABH because there was another 6-pan ABH palette that was chosen, and in this case it was by Susan. And Susan chose this one, which was number 10, and also chose the Lorac Navy, which is the other palette that is depotted in that magnetic palette I just showed you. I didn't use the skinny navy as often because I ended up with quite a few blues, along with the quad of the month that had a blue, cobalt blue in it. A lot of blues this month. But this palette, boy, did I end up using it a lot. Hopefully you can see the colors. I was setting my under eye concealer with the banana powder every single day. I was using the cream, the light cream color, to set my eyeshadow primer every single day. I used this highlighter if I wanted a very mild looking highlighter, mostly Cupid's bow and bridge of my nose, sometimes on the cheekbone as well. I used this sculpting powder probably around half the time, quite a bit. I didn't use this cooler bronzer at all, but I did use, well, no, that's not true. I used it, I think, once. But this is the bronzer that I was going for if I was choosing to use the bronzer in this palette, and I did use it a couple of times. This is a very solid palette, and the fact that the contour powders come out of the pan is extremely convenient. You can just replace, if you tend to go for a given color way more than other ones in a contour palette, I would suggest a palette where you can do refills. And so I am a big fan of this palette for that very reason. And I also did find that the powder, the nature of the powders in the contour palette would also make it a good neutrals palette to start off an eye look. I would not have an issue with using the cool or deeper Sculpt and Bronze colors to use as an eyeshadow, and certainly would not hesitate to use the highlighter as a brow bone highlight along with that cream powder. Now let's go into that Lorac Navy, Skinny Navy, and these are the colors from that palette. And this one had a bit of a mishap at the beginning, right before the project. It was broken, and I did repress it, and I think it turned out quite nicely. I did think I was going to use these 2 colors, but I ended up not doing that, and in part it's because of that gradient blue look that I mentioned before with this color as an anchor. I felt like that was the bam look I wanted to do with that blue overall. I did end up using the grays here. And did I use, and I definitely used I used this as a brown, not so much as a gold, and that worked fine. And I thought I was going to use this beige color, but I didn't in the end. So these guys were my main colors, with this one having used this one once. And I have to say that the Lorac shadows are really good. As long as you don't mind powdery mattes, which I don't. I don't mind powdery mattes. I think they're really nice shadows. And the blue Like I said, this was my blue last couple of weeks, but the blue is very intense. I mean, it's a matte, so you want to build it up, but it's a very nice blue. And so I went into the pan once to give you that swatch. I mean, there's a lot to it. So I enjoyed using this palette, and I don't think Lorac shadows are bad by any stretch of the imagination. And that is an older palette, and it looks good. It applies well, it behaves well. So yeah, no complaints on using the Lorac Skinny Navy. I just took a moment to check something and wanted to let you know if I've given you the wrong numbers for what you picked. I actually did pick according to your numbers. I've just been tweaking the Excel spreadsheet since that day, and so my numbering recollection may be off. And so if I've confused you, my apologies. I can guarantee you I picked exactly the number correlated to the palette that you gave me last time. It's just since then I have made changes to the spreadsheet, and I noticed this as I am talking about the last person who made some selections this past time, and that is Julie. And I read the number that I had down here on the paper. I said, that's not the number she picked. So I wanted to offer that cautionary note in case you're hearing the numbers you picked last time and you're going, that's not the number. I promise you I picked the right thing. Now, let's go back. Julie is the birthday girl this month, and she picked numbers that were meaningful to her for this month. And she picked the number 26, which is her birthday, the date of the month, and also so 29 for her birthday date, and 46 for the age she's turning, which is awesome. And you put that in the comments, Julie, so I figure I can say it. All right, so what were those two numbers? Well, number 46 was the chocolate bar by Too Faced. And number, was it 46? Yeah, 46, the chocolate bar. And then 29 is a palette that I've basically made myself from a few singles and a palette that I didn't really like. Put it together and created my own. So let me show you those two. Here is the chocolate bar palette. It's so well known here on YouTube. I don't feel like I need to introduce it very much. And this is what it looks like. And I promised myself when I saw that this was Julie's pick, and it's actually the second time it shows up in the palette collection Roulette, and I will explain in a little bit how I'm going to stop that from happening. Although when I saw it was a duplicate, I knew it was a birthday girl choice, and that's why I just went with it. And I promised myself that I would do a cool toned look. So I used these guys in that look because Julie is more prefers cool tone looks. And I thought this is a warm palette, but gosh darn, I'm gonna make that happen. The other one that I used because I can't help myself is Gilded Ganache. And Gilded Ganache is, in my opinion, the nicest looking shadow for my eye color and my eye shape. And so I could not avoid using that one for sure as well. So my focus was these two. And now that I look at it, this is the color that I used in the middle in that purple gradient look with the Colored Raine palette and the Lorac Skinny Navy. This is the one that I used in the middle. And the other ones, the Spectra I used in the inner lid, on the inner lid, and the Lorac Navy and the Black Butterfly from Colored Raine, that was that gradient. So sorry I apologize for mixing things up. This is definitely the one that was on the center lid. It was a beautiful look. I will remember that look. Now, apparently, if I can remember the shadows I used. For this palette, those were the two looks. So these two and that one was pretty much what I used, along with the toppers that I talked about before. I'm not going to repeat it a fourth time. But this is a solid palette. There's nothing wrong with this palette. It performs perfectly fine. Is it the most wowish kind of looks? Well, no, unless you dip into other shadows, which I did, as you've heard multiple times already. I was okay with having this go into the rotation a second time, obviously, because I let it happen. And Judy, I really hope that you enjoyed those looks, and let me show you again that second palette that you chose. And I say it again because I introduced it just a couple of weeks ago. So it's in a Makeup Forever tin, which they don't make anymore, but it's pretty secure because it has a foam on it. It really makes me think of a product for professional makeup artists because it has the features of it, you know, the plastic protector, and this is what it looks like. And what you will see is, if you noticed it before in previous looks, that this one was a broken Rimmel Stay Matte, and it was really flaking off. I ended up repressing it at the very end, the last time I used it. I actually used it again today, but the last look I was doing for the project, as soon as I was done with that last look, I ended up repressing it, and it looks cracked and all, but it was just cracks from drying. It's fine. It's staying together. I've used my powder brush in it a couple times and it's fine. So I used the Rimmel Stay Matte as my setting powder for virtually every single day after the first day. I just realized, hey, I can just use that as a setting powder all over my face, and that's what I've been using. I used this bronzer by Rimmel at least 3 times, if not 4. I ended up also using this bronzer by Sephora. It comes as a single. And I bought that bronzer some time ago on a whim, and it is very sparkly. So if you are looking for a sparkly bronzer, Sephora does make some for sure. And then the other, this is just a miscellaneous Makeup Forever HD setting powder. Just no need to talk about it. I did not use it. And then these other ones down here and up here, these are a set of 6 deep potted blushes from Sephora. They came as a set of 6 in a blush palette, but I really did not like the blush palette. To me, it was really cheap looking, and I would just rather have it depotted. Well, it was a pain and a half to depot it, but I did do it, and I did use all of them. I used these 2 blushes as bronzer toppers as opposed to blushes per se. I really enjoyed this matte burgundy, this matte burgundy bronzer. I also enjoyed, when I wanted a more shimmery burgundy bronzer, it was quite nice. This one is extremely natural. It just adds a little bit of a flush over top of bronzer, and it was really quite nice. And this one, it made me think of the NARS Orgasm blush. Really did. I don't know if it's intended to be a dupe for it, but it did really make me think of it. I don't know if it's going to pick up so much, but that's really what this color made me think of. And it was quite a nice luminous blush, and the couple of times I used it, I quite liked it. I thought it was very pretty. So anyway, that is what I used for this from this palette, and it made me realize how much I like the products in this palette, and that I should really keep it closer at hand because there's so much in here, so many different looks that I can do from a face and contouring perspective in this palette. Now, the only thing is I would not travel with it because some of the products have been compromised, but in my makeup room, makeup studio, so to speak, there's no problem. I lay it flat wherever it is I'm storing it, and I can use it on a regular basis, and I will continue to do so. I want to invite you to participate in round number 5 of this palette collection roulette. And I'm going to, as I invite you to participate in round 5, I also want to introduce to you a new category. So what I'm realizing is that because I'm doing eyeshadows and I'm doing the contour and lip palettes, I am neglecting another part of my collection, which is funky liners and cream products, and I want to add another category. So let me just introduce the types of products that are going to be in this 3rd category. I have put in the NYX pencils. You'll see I have a bunch of NYX pencils, so that will be a category in and of itself. I also have these Kat Von D lightning liners. Those will be a selection in and of themselves. I also have some cream-based shadows some glitters and special topper type products, like this beautiful Pat McGrath gold. And so I put some of these as separate categories as well. I also have the Moon Dust toppers from Urban Decay. I have a selection of contour products from Cover FX, and also the shimmer veils from Cover FX as well. And let's show you the Stila. I also have some Stila Shimmer and Glows and Glitter and Glows, some funky liners from Urban Decay. This is another funky liner. And finally, another set of cream shadows from a few different brands: Tarte, Annabelle, Sephora, L'Oreal. So I have them grouped together in like categories, and so I'm going to give you this as a third category to choose from. Numbers only, obviously. Well, I say numbers only. Numbers get preference. If there's something specific that you want me to use, you can name them, but numbers will have first priority. So let's get into how to select the next set of products. I mentioned earlier in the video that I mucked around with the numbering system, and what I am doing now, so that there's no duplication going forward, is I am removing from the selection and renumbering the palettes that remain. So if a palette gets used, it gets hidden in the spreadsheet and the numbering gets redone so that only palettes that haven't been used yet or products that haven't been used yet are available for selection. So that means the ranges have changed. So let me give you the ranges for eyeshadow palettes. The range is 1 to 81. 1 to 81. So you want to give me one number between 1 to 81 for eyeshadow palettes. Next are contour and lip, so face palettes basically. So for face palettes, you have the numbers 1 to 18. 1 to 18. All right, so for face palettes. And now for the new category, you have 1 to 15, and that other category is other. 1 to 15 for other or miscellaneous, whichever way you want to call it. So eyeshadow palettes, face and lip palettes, so contour palettes. And third one is the miscellaneous category. And I think that I'll be able to bring you more looks without feeling like I'm leaving a big part of my collection kind of sitting there because I can't really use all these specialty items. And if anything, I think that some of those specialty items that I want to bring in as well as selections help us be more creative with our makeup. So I think that will be a nice change. So again, eyeshadow palettes, let's call it face palettes, and the third one miscellaneous. 1 to 81, 1 to 18, and 1 to 15. So let me know in the comment below what your selections are. I will have it open for a few days, and then once there are enough selections, I will close it down and film as quickly as possible the reveal and start working on the new selections. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the looks I came up with this time around, and I look forward to introducing the new products as soon as we are ready to go. Whew. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, but for now, take care.